overrated. Really? Are you guys liking this? There is nothing enjoyable except Anya.
What?
Anyone can make this type of story in comedy. Don't watch. Waste of time. There is nothing to watch.
Jeez.
That was a 1-star review from IMDb.
There's nothing here for you. Move on.
Absolutely nothing.
Anyone can make this. You're just tripping over, just drowning in these kinds of stories, right?
All the time. Welcome to Spoilers Intended, a podcast about series and films. I am your host, Andrew, joined as always by Ryan.
What's up?
And Steven.
Hey, hey, hey.
And today we are...
I didn't want to do the voice, but...
we are talking about Spy Family, or Spy X Family, however you want to say it. It's actually Spy Family, right?
I've been saying Spy X Family the whole time, and then I asked you that. I was like, is it Spy X Family or Spy
The
Family?
X is silent.
How's that a thing?
So it's like Hunter X Hunter? Just
Yeah,
Hunter,
but
Hunter.
it's Hunter, Hunter, yeah.
I've been saying Hunter X Hunter.
That makes it sound way less cool, honestly.
It really does. But so, yeah, we are reviewing Spy Family Season 1, Part 1. So the first 12 episodes of this first season, which is already confusing, but I'm going to get into that in a little bit.
We're going to have to explain
We'll
how
explain that
seasons work.
later, yeah.
All right, so before we talk about Spy Family, we're going to kind of just discuss a little bit of other found family shows or books or series or films, whatever.
Yeah.
Media.
And if you're unfamiliar, it's also called Family of Choice, meaning that you, a group of people all kind of come together for common interests sometimes or uncommon interests, you never know.
Yeah.
And all choose to treat each other like family because Spy Family is very, one of the core tropes for this show is three people that are not related at all.
Yeah.
And they have to basically make a family.
Yeah.
And outwardly look like a family, right?
all
Yeah.
with kind of their own separate motivation
Yeah,
at play. Yeah.
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 So to kick it off, I want to hear what Steven has to
Oh,
pick.
you're just going to throw me on the spot, huh?
Yep.
That's okay. I'm ready for it. So for my found family or family of choice trope, I chose Ice Age.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
So,
That was a dark horse I was not expecting.
what was funny was the first two that came to mind for me were Lilo and Stitch
Yeah.
and Ice Age.
Mhm.
And I think ultimately I ended up being a bigger fan of Ice Age,
Okay.
mostly for the comedy. But if somehow you're not familiar, Ice Age is a 2002 film. It's all CGI. And we maybe could make an argument of how well the CGI holds up, but that's for a different, longer discussion, maybe sometime.
I've never seen Ice Age.
What?
Oh, what?
Yeah.
Oh, man. The first one's really good.
The first one is really good.
Does Ray Romano play the...
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Deborah. Cool.
So basically, as you've already alluded to, we have Ray Romano, John Leguizamo,
Johnny Legs.
and Dennis Leary are the main voice actors here. So you have...
I like all those guys. Why haven't I seen
Yeah.
this?
Well, it's
I don't
good.
know.
It's absolutely worth the watch.
Yeah. So basically, you have Manny the woolly mammoth,
Mhm.
Sid the sloth, and Diego, who is a saber-toothed cat, all come together over almost kind of the MacGuffin of the story, which is a human baby. And they attempt to return it to its own tribe because it does not belong with them.
Right.
And also you have the very fun side story of Scrat, the saber-toothed squirrel, and his acorn. So these three core characters come together.
I think again, having not seen it, the thing that I remember the most is the
Is this-
acorn.
yeah,
the
because
acorn, yep.
the first trailer was just a skit with the...
Yes.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And that is purely just a side arc. But the three main characters all have very different motivations. Manfred mostly just wants to be left alone. Sid is actively looking for essentially a family because he's abandoned by his family.
Yeah.
And Diego has other motivations that are heavily plot related, so we won't go into those, but he's definitely working a different angle than the other two.
Yeah.
And so over the course of the movie, they come together to kind of form an unlikely bond or unlikely set for a fourth, also unlikely character in a human baby.
So they took the plot of 3 Men and a Baby.
Yes.
Yes.
And
yes.
then-
Almost
And
100%.
then
Okay.
just turned it into Ice Age.
Yeah, they just put
Right.
it in a setting and then made it CGI.
Somebody at DreamWorks was watching 3 Men and a Baby. I was like, wait a minute.
We can make money off
What
of
can we
this.
do?
Why couldn't we do this? But I mean, the comedy in this is off the charts, which is interesting too because it did not start out as a comedy. It was originally supposed to be a 2D animation
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
I
got the
don't know
wiki.
any of
I've
the
got the
history
wiki.
of
I
Ice
got the wiki
Age.
in front of me, so I'm learning it. We're learning it together. But yeah, it's supposed to be a 2D animation, and then they end up going to, because this is kind of the era. Pixar's been going strong for a few years now, and it's starting to become more commonplace to be able to do CGI,
Yeah.
and also more cost effective. So they went to CGI, and then they brought in some more talent to kind of push it into the comedy realm, which I think was a great decision and really, really paid off, because the comedy is really great throughout. Yeah, so that is my found family.
Sweet.
Okay. Ryan?
So I'm going to pull from the world of comic books, and I think the easy one is X-Men. I'm not going to go with that one.
Yeah.
But that's like
Yeah,
the
that's
That's
easy
simple
low
one.
hanging fruit.
Yeah. The one I'm going to pull from is Marvel's Runaways, which
Okay.
came out in 2003.
This is new to me. Okay.
I have no idea.
Really?
What this
Okay.
is, yeah.
Fantastic. All right. So Runaways is a comic that I read back, I think it was about a year or two after it had came out. I like caught up on it. So 04, 05. The conceit of Runaways is very, very cool. It's this group of kids that basically their parents get together and they meet, once, twice a year, and they have these weird like meetings, and they're like, whatever. So these kids are all from, different families. There's 6 of them, I think, 6 characters. And so their families get together at one of the, family's houses, and these 6 kids are kind of forced to hang out.
Yeah.
You know how it is when you're a kid.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like the kids
You're
of
the
your
same
parents'
age.
friends.
They're
You're
not
the same age. Yeah.
They're not your friends. They're your parents who are friends with these kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you got this group of kids. One girl, Molly, is like younger, and 2 of the kids have a crush on each other, and like so you have that dynamic there, right?
There's lots of good tension in that.
Yeah, and they're forced to hang out every so often, and so one of the times they're hanging out, you got the jock, you got the nerd, you got the artsy kid.
Just the Breakfast Club.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They decide, they get bored, and they're like, why don't we spy on our parents and see what they're doing? Like, what is it they do in these dumb business meetings? So they go through basically the secret passage. They spy on their family, and their family are all wearing costumes. And they're like, holy cow, our parents are superheroes. And they're like, oh my gosh, that's incredible. Like,
Yeah.
why have they never told us this? And then their parents sacrifice a lady, and they realize, oh no, our parents are super villains.
Oh, no.
Okay, I'm not going to lie. I was concerned this might be going somewhere else.
Yeah.
So, okay.
No, yeah. Oh no, we're not adult enough to see this. Well, they really weren't. But no, their parents sacrificed this girl, and they realized that like our parents are
the
not
bad guys.
are the bad guys,
Yeah.
right? And so they essentially run away from home,
Mhm.
becoming the Runaways, and they begin to develop their own powers, and they figure out they all have their own like superhero
Yeah.
abilities that their parents have been breeding into them or training them
Oh.
for, in the hopes that they would take over
Oh,
this evil
no.
organization called the Pride.
Yeah.
And so from there, this all happens in the first 10 pages of the comic too.
Yeah.
So this is
Oh,
not like
wow.
a spoiler.
Yeah.
This is the central conceit
Yeah.
of the book.
This is
that,
the
like,
launching point.
yeah,
Yeah.
that like they find out their parents are the bad guys, they run away, and then start to discover their own abilities that were, again, put in place hopefully by their parents, that like you
Yeah.
would take over this evil organization. And the book is basically the kids versus their parents. And it's
Okay.
like
That's
their
actually pretty
arch
cool.
nemesis
Yeah,
is the parents.
I like this concept, actually. It's pretty
Yeah.
good.
It's the artwork in the book is kind of a mixed bag, and
Yeah.
they switch artists a few times for like, I only read through like, I don't know, 24 issues or so,
Mhm.
like the first 2 or 3 arcs. And
And comics kills me when it's just like, we got
Yeah.
700 issues. Like, oh, God.
right. Well, so Runaways continued to go, but like I only read like the first good
Right.
chunk of it, and it was, the story was always pretty solid. It was just the art would kind of go back and forth depending on who was drawing it that week or whatever.
Yeah.
But for me, it's great because these are kids, so they kind of band together in this found family type thing, and each of them kind of has like a skill. Like none of them can really cook except for one of them.
Yeah.
Then the oldest girl kind of turns into like the mother figure, and then there's a little girl who's like 10.
So this
And-
is like Wendy and the Lost Boys kind
Yeah,
of thing.
yeah.
going on.
And-
Yeah.
Each of them again has powers. One of them's kind of like a necromancer sorceress. The little girl is like the Hulk. She basically gets crazy strong, but every time she uses her insane strength, she has to take a nap for like an hour. Like it
Oh.
just drains her completely.
So this is where Grogu came from.
Yeah, exactly. And so they
I
made
was going to reference an anime, but it's like a third tier.
And
your
you'd have
reference.
to explain all the way
Yeah.
down. Yeah, no.
yeah. No, so I love it because again, it's a mixture of these kids are having to rely on each other and they're having to grow up and become like a found family and team up
Yeah.
to fight and defeat basically their parents. It's the most like, my parents are against me,
Yeah.
teenage trope or whatever, but
That's fun.
with superpowers.
Well, it's a form of teenage rebellion, but they're rebelling by doing good.
So there's a Hulu show based on Runaways that
Oh.
Marvel greenlit that I have not watched because it looks terrible. It looks way too low budget for what they
Is
needed.
it live action?
It's
or-
live
oh,
action.
okay.
Yeah.
And it got canceled after I think 2 seasons. And
Yeah.
the problem was they tried to take that central conceit and stretch it out to where like I think at the end of the 2nd season is when you find out the parents are evil.
Yeah.
Oh, so they take too long to
They
drop the major
like,
jump.
It's the
Oh.
thing
Yeah.
that launches the
That's
comic
tough,
book.
Yeah.
And so they went hard trying to make like I think like a Riverdale or like try to like really build up
Oh.
the,
Like the
relationships
community
before
and,
and then like
Nah, you gotta rip the Band-Aid off.
and
Yeah.
like in the comics, I don't know if they did this in the show, but there's like a telepathic raptor that only listens to one girl. Like her
What?
parents like bred it to defend her, and it's like there's all sorts of stuff that they probably couldn't afford because they had a low budget. So they
Yeah.
probably
I mean,
made
telepathic raptors is probably a high budget cost.
right.
I assume, yeah.
yeah. But that to me is if you want a good found family story and you want to read a comic, I would recommend The Runaways. It's a lot of fun. I would say the conceit and the idea behind it is probably better than the execution sometimes.
Yeah.
Like just
Yeah.
because the art's kind of a mixed bag.
Up and down.
The writing stays decent, but it's not going to blow you away. It's just a fun book. There's one time they cross over with the Avengers for a minute, and the
Yeah.
Avengers are like, "What are you kids doing? Like, where are your parents?"
Yeah.
So that's mine. Andrew,
Cool.
what about you?
Okay, so I picked anime, and
Shocker.
the low hanging fruit, obviously.
Let me clutch my pearls.
Low hanging fruit is obviously Cowboy Bebop. I'm not going with that.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
a simple one.
Yeah, Cowboy Bebop. Another one is Samurai Champloo.
Yep.
Also
Mhm.
low hanging fruit. Not going with that. I'm going with the 2006 Black Lagoon.
Okay.
So this is a band of cutthroat mercenary pirates who take on jobs while skirting various politics of crime families in the South China Sea. So
Mm.
this is a modern, takes place in modern day. So like when I say pirates, they're not, swashbuckling with
Right.
with swords. They have guns, RPGs, and a PT cruiser boat that has torpedoes on it. And
I pictured a Chrysler PT Cruiser that floated for a second. It took my brain a while to catch up with.
So basically, they're the whole cast is you have basically like a Russian. Her name is Two Hands Revy because she dual wields weapon.
That's a cool name.
Yeah, she dual wields Berettas.
Okay.
And Cutlass Berettas because you have to.
Sure,
They're
why
still
not?
pirates, right?
They're still pirates after all.
Then you have Rock, who is basically a Japanese businessman that was essentially kidnapped and then kind of like Stockholm syndromed into joining the crew.
yeah.
And then you have a couple other guys. You have the Dutch who basically runs the company that they kind of perform under, right?
Yeah.
And then you have Benny who does like all the hacking and he's like the tech guy. So and they throughout the show they go through like a lot of different things. They fight Nazis. They fight Colombian Russian or Colombian combat maids that have like it's basically like James Bond level
Yeah.
of like henchmen kind of stuff. Then they have brush-ins with like the Russian mafia, the Italian mafia, and the show itself is very well produced, has great animation, and it is not for kids.
Right.
It is very violent, pretty much like right from the first scene.
From the get.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but you definitely have this this very large found family tech kind of dynamic throughout the show,
hmm
especially between Revy and Rock, who are Rock's basically the main character. Revy's kind of the secondary,
Yeah.
but she's the poster girl kind of.
I was
for
gonna
the
say, I
show.
think she's like in the thumbnails and
Yeah.
the posters for it, right?
and it's really about their relationship of kind of becoming this brother sister dynamic throughout the show of
Mhm.
like her being able to trust him and then him just accepting kind of who she is
right.
of who is just this girl that just absolutely loves to just kill everyone.
Right.
Yeah, it's a good watch. It's only there's quotation marks 2 seasons, but it's really 1 season.
Mhm.
And it's only like 25 episodes. Really, really fun watch, especially if you like those kind of more action-based
Yeah.
shows.
So give me the name again.
Black Lagoon.
Black Lagoon. So when you said that, I was hit with this absolute wave of nostalgia. Not for that, but for I don't know if either of you
Creature
remember
from
the
the
show.
Black Lagoon?
No, the Pirates of Dark Water.
No.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
the old man. And
I
me
forgot
remember.
about that. Oh,
Right?
back in the 80s.
It's what 1991
or
Close enough.
91. It's hard to say.
Now I'm gonna have to go back and pull it up and just be like, man, young me was an idiot.
Yeah.
See how bad that is now.
What? Okay. Well, I mean, you said it. Now I have to know.
Oh, you have to know? Okay,
Yeah.
so this actually kind of ties into what we were discussing before the show. It's an American fantasy animated TV series created by David Kirshner and produced by Hanna-Barbera.
Okay. Hanna-Barbera.
We're already in
Checks
good.
out.
Yep. Premiered as a 5-part miniseries on Fox Kids in early 1991. So there's only 21 episodes, but the premise is you have this alien world of Myr. It's being devoured by an evil substance known as dark water.
Okay.
So it's kind of, I guess maybe in a sense, kind of like a One Piece where everything is just islands.
Yeah.
And you have to sail from place to place, but you
Yeah.
have this water you can't enter. It's like a kind of sentient
like a
sludge
sludge.
that will like
Yeah.
grab a hold of anything.
No good.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you have the main character is Ren, who is a young prince. And the only way to stop it is finding the 13 treasures.
Okay. Yeah. Sounds
So
right.
it fits. Yeah. So he has a loyal
Yeah.
crew of misfits.
Yep.
And they go about Myr. But like you have like, so the Wikipedia has its own description of just the main ships as if they're their own characters because they kind of are.
Okay.
So the
Gotta
good
sell them
guys,
toys.
the good guy's ship is called the Wraith, and it is described as a swift, beautiful ship originally owned by a pirate.
You know, this is ringing a bell now.
Yeah.
Now that you said, I
It
just didn't know the name.
It has a
Yeah.
unique dynamic mainsail that rotates to slow the ship or act as a parachute, and it can also be detached to become a large glider. I remember
Yeah, this
this
is
toy.
basically just One Piece.
I remember this toy.
Or maybe One Piece took.
took this
Yeah,
premise.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Was
and this
One
is
Piece
a-
out
this
in
is-
91?
No,
Oh.
One Piece
Yeah.
started in '97 as a manga.
Yeah. So like the Wraith was built with lumber from mystical trees on a remote island, and the lumber still retains some of that life force. So it is either haunted or has its own mind of its own at times.
Oh wow.
And then you have the big bad evil ship, which of course also it's built from the carcasses of leviathans, these big creatures that are dangerous.
Yeah.
I don't know. I
It
have
smells
to go.
really bad. That's its
Probably.
feature.
I have to go back and watch this now. Sorry, that was a total
Oh no,
segue.
well, no, that's actually a good segue though, because I always laugh whenever you have these, I'll say like kid shows that have
Mhm.
like, oh, you have to find the 13 gems
Yeah.
of the Oblivion or whatever,
Yeah.
because the showrunners actually need a general goalpost for like when the show will end. But
Yes.
everything in between that will basically let them elaborate, and they can stretch that out as long as they want.
Yeah.
So
to
One
where-
Piece.
Yeah, so One Piece is one. So you have like the 7 Shibukai is kind of like the like they're like the big pirate warlords that they have to defeat to
Mhm.
basically, like, so the second that they say that number, that is at least a general definitive point of where that's going to end, where the show's going to end.
Right. And it gives significance when one of those things gets found or
Exactly, yeah.
happened or defeated or whatever.
Yeah.
And speaking of that, we are talking about exactly that, a shonen, which is Spy Family.
Okay.
It is absolutely
Yeah. No. I can
What
see
is a shonen for?
okay. So a
kids at home.
shonen for the kids at home
it.
is it's essentially for young teens.
Mhm.
Mhm.
That it is a relatively simple plot, most of the time revolving around action and fighting, like Dragon Ball Z is a shonen, One Piece, Bleach, Naruto, all of those.
All the really big name anime shows that you're going to recognize are basically guaranteed to be a shonen.
So and one of the reasons why it gets that moniker, and this is why Spy Family also kind of falls into that category,
Mhm.
is because it is posted as a manga in Shonen Jump.
Why are they
which-
jumping?
That's just the name of the
I'm just
thing.
playing.
But in the show, there are a couple of goalposts that are kind of put
Mhm.
in front of our main characters
Yeah.
to reach that they kind of need
Right.
to get. So before we kind of get into that, I'm just going to kind of go over a little bit of details about Spy
You
Family.
wanna give us
Yeah,
a little plot synopsis
Yep,
and,
so-
and the like.
Yeah. So we are talking about Spy Family. Came out in 2022. It is adapted from a manga by Tatsuya Endo. Excuse me.
Yeah.
I was
Of
gonna
the
say
same
Tet.
name.
So Tatsuya Endo, and it is produced by Wit Studio and Cloverworks.
Oh,
This
okay.
is a
Hmm.
show that it's pretty rare that you see 2 different studios on the top billing
Mhm.
for production. But basically, they alternated episodes
Oh,
to
okay.
to
Oh, wow.
to basically allow both studios to work on half of a show.
Having the time to fit it in with other production
Correct.
runs.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is and Cloverworks does this a lot with
Interesting.
with other production studios.
Okay, so they have experience. So my concern, right? Because as soon as you say stuff like this, all I see is One Punch Man season 1 to season 2.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's my concerns. But they have experience doing this process.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So this is so basically like every other episode is done by Wit Studio. Every other episode is done by Cloverworks.
I'd be interested to see. I guess maybe an episode list to see who did which, to see what my like the episodes I
Yeah,
liked
which
and
ones-
didn't like.
which
Oh,
ones-
yeah.
So this show started in April and ended in June for the first part of season 1. And when we are recording this right now, season 2 or part 2 of season 1, it's so confusing. I'm going to get that in a second. Part 2 of season 1, so episodes 13 through 26
Yeah.
are going to be airing October 1st, 2022. So if you're listening to this after that date, it's already out and you can probably go watch it. The director is Kazuhiro Furuhashi. Before we get into scores and stuff, I just kind of
Mhm.
want to go over kind of how I've alluded to a couple times now of how confusing anime seasons are.
Why do they split seasons of anime into 2 chunks? Like episodes 1 through
You
12.
have like
and then,
season 1
13
and
through
season 1
So-
part
24.
2.
So
Yeah.
basically, there are 3 different tiers of a quotation marks anime season,
Okay.
and unfortunately, there are only 2 definitive words for it. So
Okay.
so you have an actual broadcast season,
Mhm.
which
Mhm.
is split into 4 quarters for a year. That's pretty standard for every country, essentially. Which
Yeah.
is you have January to April, April to June / July, then July to October, and then October to January.
Yeah.
And within that, so each one of those can be considered a season of a show.
Okay.
Okay.
However, it is up to the studio to actually determine that.
Okay.
So whenever you have like an anime show that has 12 episodes, and that is the only thing that they're ever going to show, that is one season of a show, which is basically 1 quarter of a year.
Yeah.
However, you can have other shows like Spy Family that will have 26 episodes, which is considered a full core, COUR. It's
Okay.
actually a borrowed word from Japan that we use for that.
Okay.
Because there really just isn't a definition for it here in the US.
And core just means basically half of a season.
Pretty much. So a core is a full core series is 26-ish episodes, 24 to 26.
Okay.
If you have a half core, that is 12 episodes, and then anything beyond that is you just keep adding on half cores until, you're basically satisfied.
Yeah.
Both of if you have a half core show and you
Mhm.
have a full core show, both of those can be considered under one singular season if the series wants to do that. So like Attack on Titan is a good example of this,
Yeah.
to where you have the final season, which is actually 2 different cores split up over 2 years, essentially.
Yeah.
But it's still considered one season because that's just how they want to basically make it distinctive.
So really, it's just up to their discretion
Pretty
onto
much.
how much they want to confuse
Yeah.
viewers.
So
really.
yeah,
Okay.
So another good example, kind of on the inverse, is the first season of Sword Art Online. So
Uh-huh.
whenever
Uh-huh.
someone says, "Oh, I love the first season of Sword Art Online," they are 100% talking about the first 12 episodes. The other 12 episodes within season 1 is still technically season 1, which
Got
is
it.
Alfheim Online. It wasn't that good, unfortunately. The light novel's way better, but it's
Getting
one
into
of
the weeds here.
yeah, well, but it's one of those things where whenever someone says, "I love season 1 of Sword Art Online," they're talking about in their mind they're talking about the first
The
12
first half,
yeah, the
basically.
first half of season 1.
Okay.
It gets really confusing. I feel
Yeah.
like Charlie
Well, that
Day
got
talked.
me with Attack on Titan. I was so mad when it was like
Yep.
the final season. I'm like, thank goodness. And we got to that last episode. I was like, how are they going to wrap all this up? This is insane.
Yeah.
There's probably some pacing issues here.
Yeah, and then it ends, and I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
there's another half of the final season. This
Season,
isn't
yeah.
this is the final season coming
Yeah.
up. Yeah.
It can be frustrating and confusing if you are unfamiliar with kind of how anime
Yeah.
seasons
Well,
work.
especially with there only being just kind of the one term for it that can mean multiple things. It's just so easy to get crossed up on it.
Yeah.
Well, and for someone like me who like predominantly watches anime after it's aired
Mhm.
in its completion, or at least the season's done,
Yeah.
like I don't catch it in the gap between the cores.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
Cowboy Bebop, I watched all of it.
Yeah.
Front to back. Same thing with
Well,
a lot
and-
of stuff.
In
Yeah.
some shows, like Cowboy Bebop, they just air episodes 1 through 26 or whatever all the way through, and they don't break.
Okay.
Well,
Where
and especially I think too, if you have like dubs,
Yeah.
sometimes you won't catch a dub until it's already finished everything. So in
Yeah.
America, you get the full season 1, whereas
You
if
get it
you're
all.
Mhm.
tracking
Yeah.
it on release, it would just be, well, you get the first 12 or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like a good example of that, because shonen, like long running shonens like One Piece and stuff like that, they don't actually follow any season.
They just put it out there when they want.
They basically just put it out as long as it is, and there's no really like seasons until they send out volumes like in Blu-ray or DVD, and that's how they determine.
Then they kind of divide
yeah.
it up.
Interesting.
Okay.
But Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood is another one that basically aired all 64 episodes back to back to back, and they never took a break. Where
Jeez.
in over here in America, you have broadcast TV that will go 6 months on, 6 months off, 6 months on, 6 months off, and they can still consider that one season if they want, but most of the time don't. Like Breaking Bad did that.
Yeah.
Where they did like 5 episodes, took a break, did another 5 episodes or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was Andrew's anime corner. We're going back
Thank
to
you for
Spy
joining
Let's all
Family.
come back
TED
up for
Talk.
air.
Yeah, I felt like Charlie Day talking about like the big board of all the
diagram.
Yeah. Pepe Sylvia.
So we are talking about Spy Family, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So let's kind of go over. So we gave it a 7.5 total.
Okay.
The aggregate score based on our 5 pillars of review: spectacle, performance, score, plot, and entertainment. And basically, all of those, we all, come up with scores on our own and then put them all into a big, and there we go. Now we have it.
This is
Give
a
it
technical term.
Yep.
Yep. And it all goes in blind. So none of us know exactly what each of us scored for these each thing.
Correct.
Yeah.
So Spy Family is a show about a master spy named Twilight that is basically attempting to infiltrate another country's leading, basically political circle. And to do that, he has to basically fake a family to enter his kid into the school that
Like the premier elite school.
yeah, that basically the leader of that country's kid goes to.
Yeah, all the political elite kids, basically.
Yeah.
And he has to basically form this family and make it look like an actual functional family, due to the fact that the school is very strict on how it views traditional marriage,
values,
and family values, and
Yeah.
everything. So then you have Yor, who is the wife, essentially, who is also a master assassin. And then you have the kid, Anya, who is a telepath. Now, the fun part about this is, one, is a lot of comedy, lots of really fun things, but basically, unless Anya is the only one that knows the actual identities of
Right. Because she overhears their thoughts at different times.
Yeah,
and
no,
reacts
like
to it.
Lloyd does not know that his fake wife is an assassin.
Yes.
She doesn't know he is a
Spy.
spy, and then they don't know that their fake child, Anya, is
Is a
a
telepath.
telepath.
Yeah.
But Anya knows everything because she can hear all their thoughts.
Yeah.
which
And-
leads to a lot of comedy.
Yep. Yeah. Lots of really good moments and stuff. So, let's kind of go over some general thoughts of what we think.
So I wrote this down as kind of like a cutesy approach to an odd couple.
Yeah.
Because, Lloyd and Yor's interactions definitely kind of fit how I would view, the classic odd couple style shows of, well, one of them is very meticulous and, good cook, very clean. The other one is not those things.
Right.
Emphatically not.
Emphatically not. Yeah, they emphasize this a lot. And it is, it's played for comedy and laughs and
Yeah.
stuff. And yeah, I think Anya is maybe at times a little too saccharine, a little too sugar sweet for me.
Okay.
That might be a source of complaints going forward. We'll see. But for the most part, it's pretty fun. I think there are 4, because it is essentially Cold War, West Germany, East Germany is what we're getting.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
it's very much so the styling of the way people dress, the cars, etc. Maybe not the technology per se,
Mm-hmm.
but certainly kind of the attitudes would fit that era, the like mid 60s ish.
Yeah.
Men all wear suits with a hat and this kind of thing, which I love that era. It makes for some really great character
The styling
design.
is always really good.
Yeah. So it could be a really, really heavy, weighty, world peace is at stake, quote unquote, right? It could be a really dark, dour, dire show, and it's not.
Yeah,
Right.
it's fun and generally slice of
Pretty,
life.
pretty lighthearted, kind of
Mhm.
fluffy for the most part is how I would describe it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ryan,
Mhm.
what did you think?
I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah.
I think it's a bit slow at times.
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe part of it is my like I don't watch a lot of slice of life anime.
Mhm.
So I would say if you're the type like me who wants that closure at the
Mhm.
end of a core or a season,
Yeah.
I would almost wait for the entirety of season 1 to come out
That's probably what I would
before
do.
you watch it. I like the comedy and I like the action
Mhm.
in the show, and I think the weakest points for me are when it tries to be serious and dramatic.
Yeah.
Is where
Hmm.
it's not as good to me. Like the comedy is I think where it shines for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anytime they're being not serious, like I love Anya. I think Anya. I think she's hilarious. A lot
Mhm.
of her stuff is some of my favorite bits. I think I like the animation.
Mhm.
I wouldn't say it's like groundbreaking.
It's not-
it
it's not
doesn't
some
do
top
anything.
tier,
No, but
yeah.
it's good enough for modern anime.
Yeah.
It looks really good. I like the style, the character designs, and I like the setting has a really
Yeah.
cool
Well,
look
and
to
you,
it.
you basically always know what's going on, which is nice. You
Yeah.
can't always say that about all animated shows.
Right? Yeah. It's a very approachable
Yeah.
show from that standpoint.
Mhm.
I just think my only like overall spoiler free complaints would just be that I've watched other comedy anime that are funnier. I've
Yeah.
watched other action anime that are better at action.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I would imagine that a good slice of life anime is better at the slice of life stuff they try to get into. So it kind of is a jack of all trades,
Mhm.
master of none sometimes.
Yeah.
And that's, I guess, my overall, the thing to me that keeps it from being just like incredible to me
Mhm.
is that it's not quite, it never settles into either of those lanes perfectly for me.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I
Yeah.
can totally agree with that. So, one of the things with a show like this, definitely a shonen, the manga is still ongoing, and
Right.
shonen just by definition are generally a longer storytelling arc than
Mhm.
something like a 12 episode series that they have to have a beginning, middle, and end
Mhm.
in 12 episodes.
Right.
Where this is going to be long form storytelling, more considered that you're more used to from like Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood and that kind of stuff,
Okay.
where you're not going to have like we don't know how long this show is going to run.
Right. But
Got
like,
It could be 2 seasons. It
Mhm.
could be 30. We
So
don't know.
I didn't know that going into it.
Mhm.
And it felt very slow to me from
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
perspective. Like, what? Let's go. She hasn't even have like what are the stars
Stella.
called? Stellas. Yeah, I was
Yeah,
like, she doesn't have
Stellas.
one Stella yet. We're almost at the end of this quote unquote core, of
Yeah.
the season. I was like, what? What are we waiting on?
Yeah.
Let's go. And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's definitely a different pace if you are unfamiliar with that general kind of show.
Yeah.
Where like whenever you're watching something like Dragon Ball Z, it's going to take 5 or 6 episodes for them to get to like one location.
Up some stairs.
Yeah, just
to
because
power up.
no, like, and I'm picking one of the worst
The
versions
worst
of,
offenders. Yeah.
But with with shonens, like the story, it is very much long form storytelling. Like if you are going into this show expecting to have a final conclusion, even by the end of season 1, all 24 episodes or whatever,
25.
you are likely not going to get that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's a
it's-
good thing to know going in.
Yeah.
It's interesting because I had a pretty good idea that would be the case just because Andrew is reading the manga,
Yeah,
and this up to where we are 12 episodes in is how far in?
it is 3 volumes.
Right.
And there are 8 total
Currently-
translated volumes. I think there's 9 in Japan.
Okay. Which, if you don't read manga, like 3 volumes that's quick. That is a quick read.
That is very fast.
Yeah,
like
you can
I
go through those real
I
fast.
could knock out 3 volumes in maybe an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Look out, everybody.
Well, I mean, that's just kind of the nature of it being.
What's
you
your
know,
manga per
graphical.
hour rating?
Low, very low.
Is this your MPH?
Yeah, what's your MPH? Manga per hour.
But yeah, it's definitely one of those to where it is much slower burn.
Mhm.
Don't expect these massive, heavy story arcs that are going to happen. Now the arcs are going to probably have emotionally good endings. Now with it being a more comedy related show, it
Yeah.
may be more of a will they won't they kind of
Right.
experience and less of a well they killed the bad guy and all this other kind of stuff because
Yeah.
it's not that kind of show.
Yeah. So yeah, I had a good idea that was going to be the case going in. So I kind of rolled with the pacing a little better probably because I didn't
Probably, yeah.
expect, oh, we need a big conclusion, a big payoff in episode 12 or
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah, I guess I was expecting that. I
Yeah.
went into it just
Mhm.
assuming there would be at least some kind of
Some
like
ending.
a chapter end marker,
Mhm.
like type thing. And it
Yeah.
just the last episode just kind of ends, and you're like, oh, well, all right.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I got a question for y'all. Ryan described this as kind of a jack of all trades show.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So who do you think this is for?
I think that this is for definitely people that enjoy slice of life.
Is this kind of like a teaser to get you away from the action shonen
Yes.
into a slice of life?
I think so, because it has a good mix to where you have a lot of the really fun comedy, and it's very well executed comedy, and
Yes.
and generally most of the time the drama can kind of
It hits decently.
hits most of the time.
Yeah.
But if you are unfamiliar with the slice of life genre, this is a good little kind of entry into it without being so heavy-handed to where it's just cute girls doing cute things.
Without just being, this is the high school band.
Exactly. Yeah.
So explain what slice of life is for kids
Okay,
at home.
so slice of life for all of you listeners at home is basically just take any kind of activity, right? So go camping, and just whatever you do when you go camping, that is essentially the genre.
And now we have an entire anime that is just based around this group of kids who go camping together.
Yes.
Right.
That's a real thing.
And it's a fantastic show, by the way. But I love Slice of Life. It's probably my favorite. But it is not. There's generally very little action to no action.
Yeah.
There's like emotional drama at times, but not guaranteed.
But it's not a lot of melodrama. It is very like, you may have one like high emotional climax for the whole series, but most of the time it is very much a slow and steady run to the end of just enjoying what the characters are doing.
Just kind of chill. Because I know you have
Okay.
the one that you like that's about the band, the high school band.
That's Sound Euphonium is the one that he's talking about,
Okay.
which is it's slice of life, but that is melodrama to the
To the max.
Oh, it is max.
So where would you put Spy Family on the slice of life range? Would
Like
you say it's
scale.
like definitely slice of life, or just like there's elements of that in
I'd
it?
say it's probably like a 6 on the slice of life scale, going up to 10.
Okay.
It definitely has a lot of those elements in it.
Mhm.
But you always have that little twinge of either action or absurd comedy that kind of finds its way in there
Yeah.
to punctuate a lot of the episodes, to where you really only have like 1 or 2 episodes that are like just only slice of life.
Yeah. Okay.
But even then, they still find ways to put in the little spy and assassin antics into those episodes to make them interesting for people that aren't just used to that kind of pacing.
You'll never save the princess from my spoiler wall, Bondman.
Save me, Bondman!
Will Bondman save Princess Anya? Stay tuned after this commercial break to find out. Introducing the new spoilers intended Patreon decoder rate. It unlocks all new content with new bonus episodes every month, and you can listen along too for the low cost of just $1 a month. We last left our hero saving Princess Anya from the clutches of the evil Frankie.
You'll never save the princess from my spoiler wall, Bondman.
Save me, Bondman!
And we are back from the spoiler wall.
If you didn't get the message, it is all spoilers all the time from here on out.
Spoilers all the way down.
Yep. Strix or Wise is going to be
Wise.
slipping us, little notes and stuff here and there when we go get, sodas and.
I just
drinks
want
and
a
stuff at
coffee.
the
I don't
train
need a
station.
mission.
So we are, still talking about Spy Family, but now we can talk whatever we want.
Weapons free.
And weapons
Yeah.
free. So we're going to go into Spectacle right away.
Yeah.
I am curious to see what you guys thought, because this is definitely one of those shows where I think it is wholly consistent across the board with a lot of stuff.
Mhm.
So I'm very interested to see your thoughts. Someone pick it.
I'll jump in.
All right.
I gave it a 7.
Okay.
Again, pretty solid. I think there was some really good animation in some of the action scenes.
Yeah.
They were good. I think the comedy scenes are executed well, like the way they animate the comedy and the
Mhm.
way, that stuff hit and was funny.
Anya's facial expressions always just get me.
Oh, yeah.
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 The huge
but
eyes.
it does kind of have and this may be an issue of like trying to stay true to the manga, maybe, but it just has a kind of your average modern anime feel to it sometimes.
Mhm.
Like there's nothing in this that is like as eye-popping as something like a One Punch Man or a Kill la Kill or anything
It
stylized
doesn't have
or like
really big defined stylization.
Yeah, and so it's pretty above board on a
Mhm.
lot of that. But again, some of the action scenes, like early on when I can't remember, I think it's the second episode when he proposes
Oh,
to Yor
yeah.
with the grenade pin, and like that whole action scene, the chase, the explosions.
that was good.
That was fun.
Yeah.
So there are moments that stand out, but it for the most part feels to me like a 7. It's just
Yeah.
pretty good, really solid. Nothing really to complain about, but nothing either to be like, oh, you got to check this
wow.
out. Take a look at
Yeah.
this. Like there's
Yeah.
nothing from this show that I would use as
I would
a
say
showcase
the-
to show somebody.
The dodgeball scene is probably one of the best.
That's my favorite episode.
I love
of
how
the whole season.
The dodgeball episode started. I was like, oh, we're on Namek now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Apparently, Dragon Ball Z is a thing that exists in this universe,
Yeah.
since that's the kid's imagination.
Yep.
So I actually gave Spectacle an 8.
Yeah.
Okay.
I really like the shift in animation styles from the opening,
hmm
the body of the show, and then also the outro. I
Mhm.
love I think they did a good job at all 3 pieces of that, and I think those
Yeah.
are very important. You don't skip the intro, you don't skip the outro. People, come on.
Yep.
No, really good intros and outros on the show.
Yeah. They do a good job with the action when it happens. They do a good job, which is kind of your basic everyday life.
hmm
I think obviously it's not like a true hand animation.
Yeah.
There's
mean, yes,
there's
it's
CGI
digitally assisted,
assist,
yeah.
and you have vehicles especially really stood out to me.
Oh yeah.
Like the bus and that, like it's a little too CGI. So I think that was one of
It's,
my
it's
bigger.
so hard to get away from that, even on even if you're splitting up and only doing 6 episodes
Yeah.
per studio for a season, like
Yeah.
even then it's still so much.
Computers just help too much.
Yeah.
And I think the show suffers a little bit in that we haven't had what we've seen so far. We haven't had a moment where we can really, get in there and just chew on the animation and really showcase like a big action sequence
Yeah.
or some kind of intense drama. We just haven't had the story hasn't given us that moment yet for us to draw. They try to do it a bit with the dodgeball
Mhm.
and with a few other bits
The
before that,
castle episode.
Castle
Yeah.
episode's great.
Yeah.
but we just haven't had those moments yet.
Yeah.
Where they can really show off,
hmm
and I think that hurts it ultimately.
So I also gave it an 8,
Mm.
and mostly just because the show as a whole is incredibly consistent.
Yeah.
Because like I also gave Redline an 8 for Spectacle, which is a completely different beast.
Spoiler for a
it's like,
different
but-
episode. Gosh, that's fine.
It's one of those things where it's like, well, how can Redline, which is clearly like a beautifully hand drawn animated show,
Mhm.
have the same kind of thing as Spy Family, which is long form shonen storytelling that they just kind of a lot of the episodes are very basic for animation and
Mhm.
everything like that.
Yeah.
It's because it is so consistent across the board. There's never a time where their characters are off model.
Their stuff stands
That
out.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot of like cheap looking frames that were like
No,
rushed or put like it's solid.
Yeah, and they put a lot of heart into the character designs, which I think is my favorite part. I remember because I didn't know anything about Spy Family until I saw a preview or basically like key visuals for it going
Mhm.
into the anime.
Yeah.
I hadn't read the manga or anything like that, nothing. And the second I saw the character designs, I was like, I'm gonna like this show.
Yeah.
Because I could already tell the kind of effort that they're putting into just the back end production for the main 3 characters.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Especially, and you can kind of tell too, or at least I'm a graphic designer, so I get to see a lot of other stuff that you guys may not notice, but they really have a good understanding of art trends from the
that era.
60s,
Yeah.
for the 50s and 60s,
Newspapers, posters in the background. Those all
Mhm.
fit the style
Yep.
and the era that you
And
expect.
same thing with the opening and ending themes, where
Mhm.
you have the ending theme especially has a Mondrian design. If you're
Yup.
familiar, it's like the
Mhm.
the red, yellow, blue with the big thick black lines in between
Yeah,
it,
big
and they,
blocks.
yeah, and they animate that into
Mhm.
like all the different character reveals for it, which is just absolutely fabulous.
I knew
Yeah.
you were gonna love that.
It's like the second I saw it, and the cool thing is too for all the manga covers, each character that's on the manga cover has basically a period chair that is like so you have
Interesting.
like basically a period chair from like the 60s and 50s or whatever that fits their character
Hmm.
and that are real life designs.
Interesting. Okay.
So it's like and they have
Check out this ottoman. It represents
yeah,
me.
well, they do. Yeah, it's really cool.
This is
and
my
and throughout the
soul.
show, they pepper those chairs throughout the show.
Okay, I didn't catch that.
And those are kind of things that you're just not going to pick up
Yeah.
unless you read the manga, and then 2, you're very in tune with that kind of.
You're a chair enthusiast.
Yeah.
You're in the chair subreddit
A
all
furniture
day, every
aficionado.
day. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you have a mahogany rocker with,
If it has 3 legs, it's
metal
a stool,
studs-
not a chair. Get out of here, you plebe.
Mahogany.
But yeah, I thought the show is just absolutely consistent across the board. The opening sequences are
Mhm.
absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
Character designs are good. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So let's move on to performance.
Mhm.
Someone want to take it away?
I'll pick it up.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm gonna preface this with I watched the first half of the show subbed, and then I watched the second half of the show dubbed,
Oh, okay.
which isn't specifically a choice I wanted to make. I would have liked to have been able to watch more overlap of the two just to feel some differences, but I really wanted to.
I was gonna say, why did you do this then?
Well, I really wanted to do the dub,
partly
partly because one of the complaints has been in order to watch this right with the wife. One, subbed can be a challenge, and
Because
they
you get to sit there and pay attention.
yeah,
to it. I
and
get
they
it. You
well,
gotta
and they
read.
do have an issue sometimes where they have characters talking and stuff in the background,
Oh,
and
yeah.
it's not well defined who is saying what.
Yeah.
So that is definitely something that stood out to me. And
Yeah,
also,
trying to decipher the top.
uh-huh,
Is
The
that
top
them
and the
talking or the
bottom.
people in the background
yeah,
talking?
or
is,
like
is
they
a bit
split
much.
sentences,
Yeah.
and also Anya's Japanese voice actor. I heard some complaints from within the household that it was a little too grating to be able to watch. So I was trying to see, oh well, maybe with the dub, it's an easier sell just during normal watching time.
And that is Atsumi Tanazaki.
I punted to the dub on Crunchyroll just to see,
hmm
and overall I gave performance a 7.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's hard to really blame any of the specific actors or anything for saying, oh, why is it not higher or lower?
Yeah.
I just, again, because of the nature of the series, we just didn't really get a lot of big moments.
Yeah.
And, the Anya shock face is great. And I actually kind of prefer it in the dub to the sub.
Oh,
ironically.
really?
Well, because the sub always just says shock at the bottom.
Yeah.
And the dub doesn't say anything. It just lets you work off her face. And
Yeah.
you know what it is. It's a really obvious expression. I don't need that extra
So
piece.
I would say that it's more of a misgiving from the subbers themselves.
Mhm.
Where did you
they-
watch it subbed?
Crunchyroll.
Okay, on
Yeah,
Hulu
where
it
they-
didn't have that.
Yeah,
No,
where they
you-
feel the need to.
Oh, sub? No, I watched it on Hulu.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Huh. I didn't see Anya. So what?
It just says shock.
I didn't see that.
Yeah,
Huh.
I think that's more of a problem on the subbers and
Probably, yeah.
not really.
Maybe, yeah.
Maybe I just didn't
because
catch it.
obviously, like, there's not going to be a subtitle for a native Japanese listener
Right, yeah.
or watcher.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's
Yeah.
just one of those things that kind of threw me a little.
hmm
And like I liked both the Japanese voices and the English dub voices. I think not to scramble to suddenly find this name because I somehow moved off of it. But Megan Shipman, who does Anya,
Yeah.
it's actually a very close approximation of how the tone sounds in Japanese, which I
Yeah.
always like when you hit that with a good dub.
hmm
But yeah, I just don't know that there was necessarily they were given big moments like you have. There's one line that Lloyd gets. It's midway through the season, and he just says, anxiety, my old friend. And I
Yeah.
lost because he's very deadpan, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I lost it for that one. But there weren't a ton of moments. Like there were some just kind of polite chuckles.
Yeah.
There weren't really moments that just got me, except for that kind of stuff.
Okay.
So.
That's fair.
Anyone else?
So I'll go. I gave performance an 8.
Okay.
I always felt mostly the same. I mean, it's long form storytelling. You're not going to get like these really high climactic emotional
Yeah,
moments.
you never
or-
get big payoffs. They kind of tease at it, but
Yeah.
that's about it.
The first really big emotional moment you get is whenever Lloyd is proposing to Yor with the grenade pin,
The grenade pin.
which is absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of really fun moments with Anya. Definitely the star of the show.
Yeah, I would say so.
both for the plot and then just generally she just steals every scene that she's in.
Yeah.
Just because her expressions and her general just like demeanor is just absolutely hilarious.
And some of it for me too is I do have some specific complaints about episodes that are purely Anya centric.
Yeah.
And it may just be the kids interacting with other kids just is kind of grating at times. But I do think while she is a really good punctuation mark,
Yeah.
I don't know if the way the story is presented so far for her works as her being the main carry. I
Yeah.
feel like the character works better as
As more of a
the
sidebar.
the bridge. Well, it's the bridge between the two other
Yeah.
characters who
Mm.
actually have maybe better emotional weight to work with at times.
Mhm.
So it may just be me too. I don't know.
Yeah, for me, my and she's really one of my favorite voice actresses. Saori Hayami, she's Yor
Okay.
for the
Mhm.
Japanese. She is I love just her general like timbre because one is very soothing, and she's also in a whole lot of slice of life shows that I watch.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it's a very
That
familiar.
Very
Yeah.
familiar. She's one of the main characters in A Place Further Than the Universe, which is like probably in my top 3 anime of all time. Like, just
Mhm.
fantastic. But so she's always really fun, and this is one of the first times that she's really gotten to flex a lot of her more like comedic timing,
Mhm.
I think, and just some of her more like general expressions. To where a
Yeah.
lot of the other shows like it's always very subdued and very kind of chill. But this one, I felt she got to flex a little bit, which was really nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Ryan?
I'll jump in. I gave it a 7.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Anya is a lot of fun for me.
Yeah.
I enjoyed her. I enjoyed the comedic stuff. I liked the stuff with her and the kids, like the episodes where it was just her at school. For me, Lloyd and Yor were kind of one note every now and then. And I don't
Yeah.
know if it's because the pacing of the show
The
is
show,
going to be
yeah.
so stretched out
Well,
that they didn't
he's
have as
very
much.
deadpan.
Yeah, he's very deadpan, and she has a very specific like. She's not deadpan necessarily, but she's kind of like the clueless.
Yeah.
She
you
gets
know.
kind of the ditz casting.
kind
which is,
of.
Yeah.
And so
Mhm.
for me, sometimes in certain episodes, they were kind of one note of just kind of like
Hmm.
he was the same throughout, she was the same, you know. Other than that, I think again, I've said it before, the comedy works, the action works. I feel like some of the heartfelt moments were a little too cheesy and didn't land for me. Like when
Oh.
he's adopting her, or not,
Yeah.
when he like sets her up to go on the street and she
Yeah.
comes back to him. And yeah, I don't know. It just felt cheesy to me and melodramatic and not like, oh gosh, like it didn't
Yeah.
hit with me.
No.
But the comedy, most of the comedy beats like hit for me pretty good.
Now, I will say, I did, say, oh, well, it hasn't had enough, drama or emotional highs.
Mm-hmm.
Episode 4, the interview,
Oh,
when
yeah.
when they have kind of
Oh,
the jerk who is
Yeah.
there because of his
And he's
family
just
name,
trying to goad them
and he's
on.
trying to goad them, and he makes Anya cry, and like Yor and Lloyd's reaction to that, I love that.
Yeah.
And especially him, like Lloyd basically like dropping the mic on them and being like, we applied to this college because we felt like it would be, the best step for her and everything else. But from what I'm seeing in this interview, I feel like we might be better than you. And they leave.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
that was good.
Hammer that home.
After destroying the mosquito.
The mosquito on the
Mosquito
table.
on
Yeah.
the table. I just wanted more of that, I think, was
Yeah.
my thing
yeah.
with the
I do
performance.
think once I had that, and then we went several episodes, and it's just like, man, I want more of episode 4. Like, come
Yeah.
on.
Yeah, I mean, I felt that there's some pretty good touching moments. The episode where Lloyd bugs Yor, and he's basically like
Yeah.
following her.
Oh, yeah,
around and
that was
stuff.
actually
that was
pretty
pretty
good.
good,
That was good.
especially at the end whenever like they kind of see each other on the street, and then he kind of
Mhm.
comes up and they start talking, and like. And then Anya gets out she's like, "Oh, you're not fighting anymore." And they're like, "Wait, we were never
We were
fighting."
never fighting.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, so we're gonna move on to the score of the score.
The score of the score.
Yeah, and I'm gonna start this one first.
Okay.
I gave it an 8.
Okay.
Okay.
So I think one, fantastic opening and ending themes were just like really like set the tone really good. Steven's giving me squinty eyes. I don't understand how this is happening.
We're gonna talk about it.
So Mixed Nuts by Higedan
Mhm.
is the opening theme,
Mhm.
and
Thought you were about to talk about the snack just in general.
that was the second that became available, I just immediately put it into playlist. Just love it. But that is not the only thing that has music in the
Mhm.
show,
Mhm.
which is the overall background music. So there's like 4 or 5 really solid jazzy themes in there
Yes.
that have like Operation Strix, just the Lloyd family, just kind of general thing,
Mhm.
which is really good. And I mean, they just kill it, and then it's very like exactly what it is when you kind of hear like those horns come on,
Yeah.
and it's very iconic, and you kind of can tell what's happening. There's a lot of the action scenes and some of the other just kind of general stuff that don't have those really big hits
Mhm.
is mostly forgettable music.
Yeah.
Like I could probably place that in basically any other anime. But yeah, with having those 4 really solid BGM tracks really push it above, probably because I was going to give it a 7, and I was like, actually, I think because I went through and re-listened to the soundtrack again,
Mhm.
and I was like, okay, yeah, I'd like these definitely push it one above for me.
I want to hear Ryan's opinion first.
Okay.
He's going to give it a 5.
You guys might want to buckle up for this. I gave this thing a 9.
Oh, okay.
Oh, wow.
I love this
Okay.
soundtrack. You put jazz in an anime, baby, I'm there.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's because I listen to a lot of jazz in general, so I just
It's bebop's
like
fault.
it. But like, man, I like this soundtrack top to bottom. I
Yeah.
think the intro theme song, the outro, and the background music, like you're saying, is great. The comedy music that was played on sounds like maybe recorders or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, I love it every time. I think just in general, there's a lot of really good sweeping, big band
Yep.
jazz type music that just punches up scenes. I like some of the action music in some
Yeah.
of the scenes,
Okay.
like the specifically the car chase at the front, or when the episode where he
Proposes.
fake proposes.
Episode
Yeah.
two,
Is that
yeah.
episode 3? 2?
Two.
Okay. I thought that was great, but like specifically the jazz stuff,
Yeah.
I loved it. And then every punctuated comedy scene, I felt like the music was on point. I just loved it. I've listened to the soundtrack a few times since watching it.
It's a great soundtrack.
And I never skip the intro or outro,
Nope.
which normally I don't do that for a lot of shows, but for this one especially, like the first time I heard the ending song, I was like, okay, that's pretty good. And now like it's stuck in my head.
Well,
yeah.
it was definitely one of those where it was kind of chill for a little bit, and then whenever you whenever you get to where animators decide that they want to animate like just their main characters dancing and just doing fun stuff, like
Yeah.
I am all there, like I'm
You're
100% sold, never gonna skip.
This speaks to my interest so specifically. Yeah, no, I loved it. I
Yeah.
gave it a 9. Steven, what about you?
Okay, well, I wasn't sure if I was going to be in the middle here or what. So I gave it a 7.
Okay,
Not
That's fine,
harsh.
yeah.
I will disagree with y'all in that I do not like the intro music.
Oh,
okay.
you were so wrong.
And it's hard for me because I love the intro animation,
Mm-hmm.
but I feel like my initial impression of the intro song was that the vocals and the actual music really clash with each other really hard. And I have not recovered from that impression, essentially. I absolutely I adore the outro.
Yeah.
The animation, the music. I don't skip either because I really wanted to be like, well, maybe the intro will grow on me. And while I have gotten more used to it, it hasn't. It's less of a, I like it more because I've listened to it, and
Prisoner
more,
syndrome.
yeah, well, and more just like, I've heard, I'm just
Yeah.
this is life.
Yeah.
I do love the different bits we get for kind of, well, now we're in, Lloyd's head as he's being very analytical, and we get a very, deliberate paced music behind
Yeah.
that. And then we jump to, well, this is the family coming together as a family, and we get that own little tune. I love those pieces that have been picked for those because they come up, episode after episode
Yeah.
after episode, and it's familiar, it fits, it feels good. I definitely agreed with Andrew about some of the action sequences and some of the other background music. Just kind of it disappears,
just
it
kind of
fades
blends in.
It could
Yeah.
it could be in anything, and that could be even maybe a sound mixing thing where it's just not there enough.
Yeah.
But yeah, for me, the big standout issue is I'm not saying the intro is bad. And it kind of bothers me because it feels like the intro, the vocals, and the music both have good pieces. I just don't think that they were put together as well as it could have been.
Sure. So
Disagree, but okay.
yeah.
Well, they're with jazz, there's different
Yeah.
styles, right? And it's kind of almost a more discordant jazz,
It is.
It
yeah.
is.
and that is not not what I'm
It's
here
not your
for.
jazz.
So,
Yeah.
and
Hashtag not his jazz.
I can definitely say that the song itself, Hige-dan, doesn't really do that kind of music.
Right.
They're more of like a general kind of like rock pop.
Mhm.
And they probably what happened was Wit Studio and Cloverworks kind of came to them. They were like, "Hey, we want you to do this opening. This takes place in the '60s.
Yeah.
We want it to be kind of this jazzy feel."
Yeah.
And and they looked at probably jazz around that time, which can be pretty discordant
Yeah, it
and
can.
all over the place.
Yeah.
And which I personally like. I mean, I grew up with a jazz drummer in my
Yeah, yeah.
household. But
Was
yeah,
your whole life growing up just like Whiplash over and over again? The movie Whiplash. Leave me alone, Dad. I'm eating Frosted Flakes. Tack, 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 tack.
but yeah, like I can totally see it because like it is like the first time I heard it, I was like, oh, that's interesting. And then like I heard it again, I was like, oh yeah, I can totally get behind, especially the final chorus that they
Now,
do.
I do think that as it goes, it gets better. It may just be that first
The first
couple
little
of
bit is
bars
yeah.
are just a little too jarring, a little too off.
Yeah.
But I'm definitely more of the school of kind of the big band jazz,
Yeah.
which is a much more coordinated feel, and it's not that for sure.
Yeah. No, I totally can accept that. You're still wrong, but that's fine.
Whatever.
Sure.
So we're gonna move over to the plot.
Okay.
Yep.
Ryan, you should start this one.
Okay.
I'm curious.
I'll jump in. I gave it a 7.
Okay.
I think, I don't want to keep repeating myself, but like plot wise, the way they transition from action to comedy to serious stuff is pretty good. But I've seen other shows do it better.
Yeah.
I think the thing that I'll repeat, and this is mostly for listeners who don't watch shonen that take 1,000 episodes and don't watch a lot of slice of life, is for me there were definitely some slow moments.
It's a very slow burn.
There were certain episodes that jumped out as a lot of fun, like the dodgeball episode, the castle episode, the one where the interview, getting her into school. Those stand out as like really big high points. And in between there's a lot of episodes that
they kind of meander a little bit.
They meander, and they drag. And that's, I think, part of it. That is what it is. It's this show, like you said, we don't know how long it's going to air, and that's the nature of the beast.
Yeah, I can agree with that. Steven?
I gave plot a 7.
Yeah.
And I'm not really for the same reasons as Ryan. I typically enjoy slower paced stuff. There have been a lot of things in anime I've watched that are not slice of life, but slice of life adjacent.
Yeah.
So kind of used to the feel.
Yeah.
I loved episode 3 with the castle, episode 4 with the interview. Those were kind of the highlights for me. The dodgeball episode was fun just because of the references. Like, we did Goku with really I think it was Gohan with the catching the big ball.
Yeah.
But with that play, seeing a little bit of Namek in the background when he's actually on the tire swing, and like the climbing the big cliff, and they're actually just on because that fits really well, right? That's how
the
kids
introduction though of the big kid.
Oh god,
had me in
funny.
stitches.
So
I thought there was an adult
6-year-old?
man on the other. I was like, how is this? He's like, go man up, speaking really deep, and I was like, whoa, this is hilarious.
So I don't know for y'all. Did y'all play sports growing up as kids? Like, did you have to do like little league when you're like 6 or 7? Or whatever?
I did like some minor league, and I played like in gym class. We would have like dodgeball,
well,
and
that's
that
not
kind
the
of
same
stuff.
thing. So I played little league baseball until I was like 7 or 8, and I swear to God, there was always this one team.
Oh yeah,
who had kids who were like on steroids. It would be like everyone else out there is what you expect from a 7-year-old, and then here comes this dude who I swear he probably had to shave this morning,
right?
And he's just belting the ball.
He's like,
over
hold
the
my
fence.
beer, I gotta play baseball.
Yeah, like his kids cheering for him from the freaking bleachers or something, right?
That kid's got a kid. What's happening?
Yeah. So that episode kind of triggered me because it was just like, oh my gosh, this is true.
This happened to me. Yeah.
Big complaint. I don't know how dodgeball works in Japan.
They were playing it wrong.
But if you catch the ball, that kid is out.
Yeah.
Why in the world is second son kid still throwing the ball, throw his butt out?
Yeah.
His first attempt gets caught. You are out.
So the fun thing is too is that it's really hard to tell with these kind of shows whenever they have a character like the Dodgeball King.
Yeah.
That is, you can't tell if it is basically just her perspective of how big this kid is, or if this kid is actually
really massive,
jacked.
Well, I love when they show the kid talking to his dad, and his dad is a big adult, and you're like, oh, okay,
just a brick house.
Before that, the only perspective you have is with the other kids, so you think, is this guy like 6'8"? And then when you see him with his dad, you're like, oh no, he's just like a big 3rd grade sized child, and they're just little kindergartners or whatever. Yeah.
So I also gave it a 7.
Okay.
7's all around.
but really just because it is specifically for just because we're only reviewing obviously 12 episodes, part 1, season 1. Yeah. It's very hard to tell where the rest of the story is going.
Right, like where are the big payoffs?
Like, so you can't, like, it didn't offend me at all.
No.
And it didn't exceed anything because it's long form storytelling. It's really hard to tell exactly where it's going because I've only read up to where the season finished.
Okay.
So I don't know what else happens beyond this. And just a couple stray notes that I really liked that, because it's one of those things where like, okay, let's say you have a spy and then he goes and adopts a kid and then he has no intention of keeping this kid. Right.
Right.
Like there's a lot of really bad connotations there. Just,
sure.
Just
there's some horrible, like we're getting into human trafficking levels.
Just wholesale, just really
bad.
Yeah. But the thing that makes it feel better is that Anya's the only one that has agency at all in all of this because she knows immediately that he is Like he is
False.
doing this, false, doing something else.
Papa is a big liar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And those kind of things. And she just wants to get out of where she was.
Mhm.
So, she bends over backwards to make sure that, it's like, oh, I'm only 4 years old, but I'm actually 6, and trying to, read his mind to make that happen. And she has a lot of agency in that, to where it doesn't feel like it's this weird, like gray area nefarious thing of like, oh, we're just going to take advantage of this kid.
And just dump him on the street.
Yeah,
or-
in turn, she's kind of taking advantage of him a little bit, because she's actually getting a great life for this.
Yeah.
Well, I would say the same thing with Yor. Like, they don't really, like, he doesn't take advantage of the fact that she's, like, kind of ditzy.
Yeah,
and
all 3 characters have a lot of agency.
Yeah.
With that, which I think is really good, because when you have this stuff where clearly one person is only here for specific mission or whatever,
Yeah.
you can definitely have those moments where you're just like, well, what happens afterwards?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And obviously that's one of the big things that they're going to touch on as the show goes
As
on,
it
is
keeps going, yeah.
because it is a found family, and eventually there is no way at the end of this he's going to be like, see you guys, I'm done.
Yeah. Well, and I mean,
right.
all of the for ignoring Anya, because
Uh-huh.
it's hard to say, oh, well, she has morals. She's like 6. It's tough to assign
4,
to her.
She has
Yeah.
4-year-old morals.
Whatever. But for a master spy and a master assassin, they have their own moral code that they hold to pretty well.
Mhm.
And you can definitely tell that it's not just that Anya is growing on both of them, and in terms of like as Yor's going through, she protects her daughter multiple times in episodes that really show off and look great.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And then you also have Lloyd, or Twilight, or however you want to go with this, where he's both kind of falling for the idea of being a father, but then you also have the 2 adults where they're kind of edging into the flirting with each
there's
other.
a little sexual
there's
tension
there's
there.
some tension there, and I think that's kind of the storyline that I'm really there for.
Yeah.
So every time we send Anya to school, it's like, oh no, the camera stayed with her. It's not quite what I really want. I want to play more in the other realm, which obviously long form show. Presumably we get that.
But that's a good point, though. Like, I'm the same way. Like, I was like on the edge of my seat with like the will they, won't they?
Yeah.
Not just between Lloyd and Yor, but like, will they become a family or won't? Like,
Yeah.
I am so ready for them to just like
Hang
find
up-
out
hang
that
it up.
she's psychic. Y'all team up, do some stuff. This
Yeah.
is gonna be
Like-
great when it
Like
happens.
learn that she's psychic, and then like incorporate that into the plan. Now the plan is just killer.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But again, it's probably the nature of the
It's
the
just
show.
the long
Yeah.
format.
Yeah, well, and the funny thing is too is like, so if Lloyd found out that Anya was telepathic, it's one of those memes where you have like the Lord of the Rings, and then Lord of the Rings if Legolas had a sniper rifle.
Yeah.
And it's like a really short thing. If
Yeah.
Lloyd finds out that Anya's telepathic, this basically fixes every problem.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, true.
It removes a lot of conflict just immediately.
Yeah. Okay, so we're gonna move on to the entertainment.
Yes. The entertainment of the entertainment. Wait, no, that doesn't work.
So I'm gonna go ahead and start out this one. I
Okay.
gave it a 9.
Wow.
I genuinely love this show. I knew right from the start when I saw the key visual, I'm gonna like it. It's spies. It's 1960s. It has that jazzy feel to it. I love the opening. I love the ending. Character designs are great. Animation's fun. The comedy is absolutely hilarious.
Yeah.
So I know we've all said the dodgeball is our favorite episode. I actually really
I did
like,
not say that.
Well,
I said the interview is my favorite.
oh, okay, yeah, sure. But the castle episode is
That's another good
is
one.
something we haven't really touched on. The fun part is it's only like 3 panels or 5 panels in the manga. So
Yeah.
this is almost a full episode of just anime only.
They just stretched
they
it out
just
to make a
stretched it
full
out and
episode
made
out
it.
of it. Yeah.
And that was probably one of the because that happens episode like 3.
Yes.
No, 3 or something
It's
like
3.
that.
It's early. Yeah.
And or maybe 5, I don't know. But it's early on, and it just happens. And it's one of those things where it's like, oh, this just sold the series for me.
Really?
Just
Okay.
because like it's just hilarious and fun, and you have a lot of like general shonen tropes that just kind of like punch their way in there.
Oh,
that are always really fun.
I'm sorry. Castle is episode 5.
Okay, that's what I
So
thought.
we have
yeah.
interview at 4, Castle
Yeah.
at 5.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I just love the show, and I want more.
Okay, I'm going to
Give me
jump
more.
in and take the reins. And
Yeah.
I'm going to take Andrew's 9. I'm going to flip it over, and I gave it a 6.
Okay.
Aw.
So most of what
Sad.
so hold on. Most of what you said is really true and accurate, right?
In your mind.
No. So my complaints don't revolve around a lot of the points Andrew's making, because
Yeah.
I think those are true.
Sure. Yeah.
My complaints, and maybe this could be an issue of watching the second half in dub, I don't know. There is a lot of narration that I just don't need.
I think that's more of just a general shonen problem.
Yes.
Which I completely agree with.
I don't need that. Show me, don't tell me.
Yeah.
There is, for this being 12 episodes of presumably a long format show, there are way too many episodes that start with a recap of why this family is together.
Yeah, we don't need to know this.
Like,
is it aimed at younger audiences in Japan? Maybe.
I mean, it's.
I don't know.
I'm just thinking of like why they would do that.
if
So
it
shonen is generally 11 to 15. Is like the age group that they're kind of trying to hit.
Because like Dragon Ball Z and stuff, they would always be like, last time.
Well,
on,"
yeah, but you have to know because you fell asleep during the last episode because it took them
too long.
30 minutes to get up a flight of steps.
Right, yeah.
And this one, I don't, if it's, Japan really undervalues the attention span of their younger audience or something, because it almost, to me, it felt like they had done the complete episode and they're like, hey, this is broadcast and we need another minute.
I mean, that is absolutely possible.
Let's just
Could be.
tack this in at the start. And I mean, there are points where I was just like, oh my gosh, don't give me another recap. I don't need it.
So, if anything, you're doing pretty well in the sense that One Piece has 2.5 to 5 minute recaps at the beginning of every episode.
There's a reason I don't watch One Piece.
I mean, it's also 1,000 something out episodes.
Yeah, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
But for me, again, I already kind of mentioned in the plot, the real meat to the story or the tension or whatever or the conflict that I'm enjoying is between Yor and Lloyd. So basically, every time we go to the school,
you're just like, oh, I don't want
this. I'm just like, man, this is another. And like the dodgeball stuff is fun, but getting to there is tough in a sense. I love the headmaster.
Yeah.
One, his design is phenomenal.
Oh, it's great. Because he looks like a bad guy. And then he's actually good.
He could be the bad guy. He could be the final boss in a sense because he hands out a demerit or whatever it's called almost immediately to her.
I mean, she did punch Damien in the face.
Punch the kid, yeah. But he has his own code and logic that he follows to, and so long as they play along with it, he's on their side, right?
Yeah.
Because I mean, that interview could have been an utter disaster.
Oh, yeah.
Which again, this is why I really love that episode because it pays off where, Yor and Lloyd stick to their guns of protecting quote unquote the family.
Yeah.
Even though they're not, and that pays off for them. And that kind of stuff I really like. It's just kind of I feel kind of like I'm being dragged behind a bus through some of the other episodes where it's at the school. Because like when they're just out as a family like that, that's a type of slice of life that I can get behind, right?
Yeah, it's fun. It's hard. It's wholesome.
Yeah, it's really good. It just I don't know, man. Maybe the kid voices kill me or something.
I really
I feel like I have the opposite experience of like the stuff at the school I enjoy a lot, and then the other stuff where they're just out and about, I feel like I'm being dragged behind a bus. No, I'm just playing.
Jump in here. Let's get some entertainment.
So I gave it a 7.
Okay,
I'm swimming in a sea of 7s over here, except for the score. Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me is just like it's a great concept. I want to keep watching.
Yeah.
It just sometimes it feels like a jack of all trades, a master of none. So like the comedy for me hits, but not as well as other comedy
it's
anime
not like
I've
side
seen.
Splitting.
Yeah. Like I've watched other stuff that had me, spitting out my drink and like just laughing out loud. This comedy is like, ha ha ha. I give a good chuckle, a good laugh every now and then. But same with the action. It feels like there are some cool action scenes here and there. And I do think that like the high point episodes, like we've talked about with the interview, the castle, the dodgeball, feel like that because a lot of the stuff in between is kind of slow. And that just this is not the type of anime I would normally watch, like a shonen typically. And so not knowing that's what it was going into it and that we were in for like 18 seasons or whatever it's going to end up being, I was getting very antsy of like,
it's like, all right,
okay,
come on,
let's get together. Start using your, like, at least find out she's an assassin and start like working together or like, I wanted there to be some kind of either conflict or teamwork to happen because of that.
Well, there's a risk, right? And a lot of American shows have had this problem where they have the will they, won't they of like Friends or whatever, like Rachel and Ross. And then those characters get married, and then all of the interest in the show just deflates. So you can't spin that out early.
Yeah, so I'll definitely say that if you, like even just for viewers in general, but mostly Ryan, if you are watching this expecting them to find out anything about each other,
buckle up.
Even until the end of the show, it will likely not happen.
Realign your expectations.
It is exactly the type of show and the type of format that is going to, like, the whole conceit is the fact that they don't know.
Yeah.
And Anya knows. And the second that they remove any kind of dynamic like that, it's going to change, basically just the whole pacing of how the show works. Now, I'm not saying that it wouldn't work afterwards, but they would have to find a new way to do the comedy and a new way to tell the stories to where, because you have those fun moments to where Anya's like in school and Lloyd's like trying to like, track her down and follow her and like tell her, hey, you need to apologize to Damien.
The sorry episode was pretty fun just because she keeps getting the message like, oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, like in the second that you remove one of those kind of like pillars of the show, it just changes kind of how the show is formatted.
I mean, we can go back to furniture, right? If you have a stool and you take one leg away, you're sitting on the floor. Falls
True,
over.
yeah.
I don't know if that metaphor quite works.
It does. It absolutely does.
To a degree.
Fine. For someone else who has worked with cameras, if you took one leg of your tripod away, your camera falls over.
You got a bipod, which is what only pros like me use.
It's
not a thing.
No.
It's not a thing.
So I do want to throw at Ryan here, too. He keeps throwing out the jack of all trades thing.
Yeah.
So how true it is, I don't know. But you often hear that phrase, right? And it gets flipped around because supposedly that original phrase was actually a compliment to the jack of all trades.
Okay.
I don't know the history behind this. I have no way to confirm.
Jack Trade. Hi, I'm Jack Trade.
Well, no. Supposedly the original phrase is a jack of all trades is a master of none, but oftentimes better than a master of one. Is the full quote supposedly?
Okay.
I mean, because like if you look at,
I like the first half of that quote better than the back half.
So I like. Well, no, I'm having fun with it.
Fits my narrative
just because you've ruined my worldview. I will now go back to my own echo chamber.
I got to get back on this Reddit.
But it's kind of cracking me up because right now this show is kind of burning it up, right? It's kind of the big hit of the season.
It is the big it is the big show that, but like even from the 1-star review at the beginning of the show, like you're going to have these people that are watching this expecting like a general shonen where it's like, spies and assassins, this is going to be action based and it's slice of life.
It's a little more dialed back. Yeah.
Well, but also I think you said when you're looking for that, you're having a hard time finding.
It was pretty tough. There was 2 and both of them kind of said the same thing. But then this one was the one that even had anything remotely funny about it.
Yeah, I almost would have suggested if I had realized it prior to that you could have gone to Crunchyroll and looked at the comments because I'm sure there's some spicy ones in there. But I do think it is doing a good job as a whole of kind of straddling these different concepts and pushing them together into a cohesive story.
Yeah,
so that's why I brought up the way the phrase is.
Yeah. No, I think it's a very good also like entry point to probably
a lot of different genres.
I would say comedy and slice of life.
And a lot of anime tropes.
Well,
as well.
And the thing too is like the one of the big things that I like about this show is whenever they do comedy, they don't change like character models. So like with Full Metal Alchemist,
it doesn't get
Brotherhood,
chibi or whatever.
They change actual form to be a more comedic form. Where this is, it's like you have fun expressions, but it's still the same character.
It's still the same. Yeah.
And that what you referenced there in Full Metal Brotherhood is one of the things I hate.
Yeah, no, it is very hard to get used to, but this is actually a very good kind of entry point into a lot of different genres, while also being just a fun show.
Yeah, it's very fun.
Yeah, so we're kind of wrapping up here. Do we have any other stray thoughts, like favorite scene, favorite episode, besides obviously the interview for Steven? Yeah, you like dodgeball.
I mean, just the introduction of that big kid on the other side. That was
it is
tops
pretty
for
good.
me.
Watching the Castle episode, I definitely saw. I was like, okay, I see why Andrew thinks this episode's awesome.
Yeah,
I think it comes in behind the interview for me. It's still a really good episode.
I also really love the scene where this is dodgeball episode where Yor is teaching Anya how to throw the ball, and she just like decimates an entire forest.
I think that's the other thing. I want more action from Yor.
Yeah,
I feel like we get a lot of Twilight. We get a
underutilized.
lot of him doing his spy stuff, and like we just get hints of like that.
You only get the bits where she thinks about it and Anya hears her thinking, as opposed to seeing her in action.
I do love those little bits though. Whenever she's talking about her brother, and then she like walks into the house and she's covered in blood. And her brother's like, "What did you do?" And she's like, "Don't worry, it's not my blood."
Not my blood.
There's so many more questions.
Also, and I just want to bring this up real quick because I forgot about it. But like that the brother is in love with her is a bit weird for me.
No, I don't. It is not romantic love.
Yeah, I do think that she is ultimately like his mother figure, and so he's protective. And
you can say that, but he did say I was supposed to marry.
Yeah,
and he does talk about getting married to his sister. So defend your point.
Well,
I-
see, we're in Alabama, and
I'm
when
not
I see that, I'm like, I
romantically
don't
married to
want
this.
No, like, okay, so I have seen enough anime.
Oh no.
Oh,
Well,
God.
hold on. We have
Where's this
we have a
going?
rating to maintain, Andrew.
No. It is not that kind of love, and that is definitely more on the lines of this is just a a toddler or a young kid that said that kind of thing.
through the lens of a
Yeah,
20.
through the-
he
through the
hasn't
lens of a
grown up.
kid.
He hasn't matured yet.
Got
yeah,
it, yeah.
Like it is.
I mean,
that
I
is
assumed
not-
that's what it was. It just
Yeah.
like when it
It
hit,
hit
was
very
like,
wrong.
It was
there-
very
there's-
weird.
there-
Yeah.
It's, like I said, I've seen a lot, and
Is that like
this
an ongoing trope in a lot of anime?
It is,
I've seen it in
unfortunately.
this and one other.
but this
that's
is
it.
this is not that kind of thing.
Okay.
Well, I will say, one of the reasons to appreciate episode 5, The Castle, is because you were complaining about we don't get to see Yor in action really.
Yeah.
They do kind of this funny, goofy, quirky thing, but it lets them really show off Lloyd and show off Yor
Of
as
being how good
how
she is.
good they are at what they do.
Yeah.
While being, because I mean, he is just mowing people down with basically Nerf guns
Mm-hmm.
against these are other trained agents of his agency, and they're all just, in awe of how good he is.
Yeah.
And then she comes out and she's like, well, we have the witch. And she starts just beating the crap out of him. He's like, you're a witch. Why are you using physical attacks? But that was another line that got a good laugh out of
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
Well, and you can definitely tell that she has the combat prowess. Obviously,
yeah.
like I mean, she is the
Yeah.
The brute force of the
Mhm.
team. And I do hope that as we get further on into the show,
We get to see
like we get to
more.
see a lot more of
Yeah.
that.
I want to
because-
know how she learned all that stuff. Like,
Yeah.
what's her,
Why,
We probably
or
origin
how.
story?
Yeah.
Well, again, knowing it now, it just, when I was watching it, not
Yeah.
knowing that we were in for possibly,
multiple
a
seasons
ton
of-
of multiple
10
seasons. Yeah.
years.
Yeah. Like, I was thinking, like, why don't we get a backstory episode instead of this one where we just, kind of go on a tangent?
Yeah. So I think that's kind of all the time that we have this week, unless there's anything else. But before you go, we have a website, a Discord, a Patreon, all sorts of fun stuff that has tons of bonus content and everything. So
Good episodes on there, too. We've
Yes.
got a Star Wars tier list
Yep,
where we argued about
there were some
the tier list
yeah,
of the mainline
a lot
movies.
about some things.
Yeah.
Then we have a fast food tier list.
Where we
Um,
basically just made ourselves hungry.
More
Yeah.
arguments, but we ended up hungry at the end.
Yep.
So, yeah.
And then we also have a general anime recommendation for people that have never really watched anime before. Really easy to get into shows and other suggestions and everything. Those are all bonus content episodes on Patreon. They are $1. Basically, you can get them all access, $1 a month.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It helps support the show, helps keep the lights on. But you also get pretty much at least one episode a month. Sometimes more than likely more for the first couple months here, just because we're trying to get
Well,
build
we
a
already
library.
have a couple of what I think are really good plans for October, November, and December
Yep.
already slated and lined up.
Yeah.
So we're actually in the middle of kind of working through some of those. And something that may or may not pop up within the show if you haven't been able to hear a bonus episode is we're making a big list of these. And every time that we start the show, we're basically, rolling a die, spinning the wheel, and then grabbing one out of the list almost at random
Yep.
and catch it on the fly and just go. So there's a little bit of prep, but it's definitely a much more relaxed atmosphere.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. They're a lot of fun.
Yep. And
Really fun episodes.
uh,
Worth the $1
yeah.
by far.
Now, if you can't afford the $1, we understand, but you can still help us out. If you want to give us a like, talk to your friends about us, leave a review. Reviews help a lot more
Yeah,
than you would
5-star
think.
reviews on iTunes specifically, but really any podcast
Mhm.
service
It
really
helps
goes
push
a
us
long
up.
way to get us discovered by more listeners. And yeah, if you see us post something on social, like it and share it, please. Like we need to
Comment.
get in more ears. Let's
Yeah.
spread the word.
And then on top of that, we also have a Discord that we like to just have general discussion with. Doesn't have to be about the episode. We have like what you're watching, what you're listening to,
What are you playing?
what
Yeah.
games you're playing.
Yeah.
We like to throw memes down, that kind of thing.
Mhm.
And we
We're one of the hip
We're-
kids. We like to throw down
Fellow-
those memes.
Look at us fucking. Oh, gosh. Hello, fellow kids. There we go. I'll get
Andrew
it
turned
eventually.
his chair around backwards and
And
said,
sat
really
down
cool when
in
he
for
said
that.
that.
Yeah.
but we also have a website that has all of our episodes on it.
Spoilersintendedpodcast.com.
Yeah, and that has links to everything that you need. Also, links will be below in the description for any of your things that you're listening to, including this episode.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, I think that's it.
Yep.
And until next time, I'm Andrew,
I'm Steven.
And I'm Ryan.
and every spoiler was intended.
Will Bondman save Princess
Perfect.
Anya?
Yeah, like-
Stay tuned after this commercial break to find out.
He's-
It's
fine.
a little mid 90s.
Will Bondman save Princess Anya? Stay tuned
No,
after this
that's too,
commercial.
like 20s.
That's too
20s?
20s.
Okay.
You're,
Where do I need
you
to go with it?
50s or 60s.
Yeah.
Let me get my voice ready.
It's every time he does it, his vocal cords like, "Oh God, save me!"